Hello everyone, today I'll be doing a small painting of a local landscape photograph that I took myself in my area of Tibshelf, and I hope you enjoy this. I'll try and explain what I do. You'll have to bear with me if I don't sound very well because I recently had surgery, so I'm just doing this very calmly and show you my techniques and how I do things. What unfortunately you may not be able to see is the lovely photograph I took, but that is off screen on my laptop. So what we start with at the moment is I'm going to start with a selection of colours. The colours I like to start with on a limited palette are titanium white, opaque cadmium yellow, and this one is yellow ochre, Van Dyke brown, Prussian blue, which I love because it's a very strong, nice colour that can get you some very deep greens and blues, cobalt blue, and rose madder, which is not an opaque paint, that's a transparent paint, but I like to use it to add a little bit of warmth and colour to things. So what I also start with is usually have some tissue folded up and ready. These are all oil paints, by the way. I have a selection of brushes. My personal preference for painting is with flats and small rounds. You may prefer to use other kinds of brushes. There are many available. The most commons are flats, rounds, filberts, and you can get chisel or sword tip brushes as well. And they vary in range, but as we're doing a very small painting, the sizes are, the largest one is the 10 flat shader, which is this one here, which I use for doing large areas, and the others are varying sizes. The smallest go into the 10-0 size, and they are often kept to do the small delicate areas. Other things to consider when you're using oil paint is to have some thinners, and I use a sealed top jar and I only open it when I'm actually using it. So I'm going to leave that open now. You must be in a well ventilated area to use thinners or white spirit or substitute because of the fumes. And I also use a small amount of linseed oil. This looks very dirty because I've used it for another painting, but the linseed oil you can see in there is still clear and the residue of the paint is at the bottom, so this is still okay to use for me for now. And I'll also be leaving that jar open. And what I also use is these little canvases, which I love. They're 7 centimetres high by 9 centimetres width, and they're just really good for doing very quick little oil paintings on. On larger paintings I may gesso the canvas, that means putting extra layers of a thick white coat on, but on these ones I quite like to just get stuck in there. So we'll make a start now. You'll notice that I don't use a traditional artist palette. I found these are takeaway food containers, and they're brilliant if you're on a budget. If you find some, or your friends have some, you give them a good clean and use them. So what I start with first is to I always end up dipping my brushes, even if they look clean, into the thinners, give them a good clean, dab them on the tissue, which I'll be doing off scene. And what I'll start with is, because you cannot see the picture, but it's a basic landscape of my local area with just some lovely fields. So what I'm going to start with is to mix up a little bit of sky colour, mix a cobalt blue, which is a strong colour, don't need much of it, and I mix it in with a little bit of the white, pull it in towards the centre of the palette. Now my techniques may be different to others, but all artists have their own techniques, they all do things differently, and you'll find that many artists will say this technique is right or that technique is wrong, but it's what works for you really, I find. So I'm now looking at my little reference picture, which is on my laptop screen. I'm just going to do just a rough little guide of where it is, and some guides on where everything is. Now, this is a very strong colour here, so I'll need to be calming this down later. I just go with the flow and it won't turn out in photographic representation of the original, but it will look really cool, just really nice. There's a lot of clouds in this picture, and what I'm doing here is I'm putting the layers on quite thin. This is watery. Let's just clean the brush. It's because the oil paint has the fat over lean rule, which most people do follow, which means that what happens is you put your thin paints down first with a thin medium if you want to use a medium, and a medium is whatever you're using to mix the paint with, And the thin medium in my case is the spirits, the white spirits, because I like to use a thin medium like that first. But when you start to go over them, the fat over lean rule applies when you're putting paints into more oily based over your thin paint. So I've used thinners for this one, but when I do a next layer over, when I get more work into the painting, I will start to use excuse me, I will start to use paint that's been mixed with the linseed oil, which is the fat. It's fat as an oil. Oil is a fat, so, and that's where you get the fat over lean. It works, and the paint doesn't delaminate. It doesn't separate, and it can just adhere very well to the surface. And I usually work wet in wet as well, which basically simply means that you're working wet paint onto wet paint, for those unaware of these terminologies. Right, now we're getting a nice thing there. Now the reason I use a little touch of rose madder, and I only use it very sparingly, is because you sometimes get those purple colours in clouds. And the thing is, clouds and skies aren't just black and white. There are many other colours present in these skies. If you look up, you can see, I obviously you cannot see my thing, but I'm looking at my reference pick and I can see lavenders and purples. They're very faint and they're very subtle, but they are there. And the other thing to remember is if you're using a colour like Prussian blue, again, you need to use it extremely sparingly. It's a very, very strong colour. It's brilliant for creating very dark areas in a painting, lots of contrast. But you may not want much contrast in your paintings. Right, we're getting there now with the sky. I'll just rinse my brush out. I've only currently got the one decent flat brush, but I would recommend that you buy yourself or acquire a few so that you're not having to clean it between each use of colour, because it doesn't help. What helps better is to have different brushes so you can keep them in when you clean them and keep using them for the similar colours so that you're not contaminating other colours inadvertently. There we go, I think that looks nice. Touch more. Let's see, where are we? Just down there. Yep. I'm not used to presenting and I'm not used to talking about my paintings, so I hope you're enjoying this and not finding it too boring and robotic, because I have a problem that I'm not a very good presenter. Now what I sometimes do is I do turn paintings when I'm using them. I do turn, when I'm painting, turn the painting up and down and from side to side, and you'll see as things start to appear. Right, now I'm trying to make that part of the painting calmer. So it's a calm sky but with a lot of clouds in it. If I get the chance, I'll show you. I'll try and tilt the camera to show you, or bring the laptop under the camera after I'm done to show you exactly what it is I'm doing so that you can see exactly what the reference picture looked like. But my reference pictures are only there as really as an aide-memoire. They're really there just to act as a guide. What I like to do is use them as a springboard for my own ideas and imagination, and then try and build up what I'm seeing in them, so that they don't look like a photographic or representation of something. So, because I like to think with a little bit of imagination, even landscapes can look quite different and quite nice. It's got some thin wispy clouds going on here and some really nice various colours of clouds here. They look really good. It was a bright sunny day when I took this photograph and I'm really pleased with the way it came out. Okay, now where are we looking? Possibly a touch darker. Sometimes I even use a tiny scoop of brown to get that, because greys are not just black and white. Greys can come in with other colours mixed in, so I'm just trying to move a little bit of brown in there, in that white in the middle. That's lovely, just to try and get a different feel to the clouds. They're dark underneath, where the light's shining on the top of the cloud, but isn't showing through underneath. So you want the clouds actually looking darker underneath. Just a little touch more there, possibly a bit too much on that. This is a stage at which I start to use a tiny bit of linseed oil. Just dabbed some in the jar, brought it out, just brought it out here just to, there we go, a little bit of linseed oil. You only need a tiny, tiny amount. Otherwise, if you put too much on, you'll just be rubbing oil onto your painting. Excuse me. As you can tell, I'm still feeling the effects of surgery. Right, possibly a little brown there. Might need a little bit of blue mixed in. So what we do is we very gently mix in a tiny amount of Prussian blue into the brown to get a lovely sort of slate colour going on. That looks lovely. A touch more brown there. A bit of slate colour going on there. That's it. Now it looks a little dark, so pop some white on it. There. You'd be surprised at how dark, a little bit of linseed oil, how dark some colours can appear. They might look light on the palette, but they can appear very dark when they actually, very, very dark when they actually go on the painting. So let's do that. That is actually not a bad colour. It's quite close to what I was trying to achieve. Don't want too much of darkness here. There are a lot of little clouds in the distance building up to some large ones at the front. It's quite a dramatic sky. There we go. Let's just get some more along this side. There we are. See, I have to have good imagination when I'm doing my artwork because my photography is rubbish. So it's probably a good thing this won't actually look much like the photograph. There we go. A bit more. Okay. We're getting somewhere now. Right, clean the brush off again. What I sometimes have to hand are dry brushes. Let's just get one. Excuse me. It's a dry brush. This is a flat as well. A small flat, it's a dry one. I sometimes use these just to, with no paint or linseed oil or any thinner or medium on them, just to soften edges and dry brush in, blend soft, and they're good because they're a softer blend. There we go, that's going nicely now. And I don't always rinse these brushes out. So what I need to do is do a few more shadows, I think. But I don't want to overdo it. Okay. Okay, I think that'll do for that. Okay. What I need to do now is clean that brush. Leave that aside. Excuse me, while I get a smaller brush and go into some lighter colour on some of these clouds, some highlights. So a little bit of linseed oil on the tip of this brush, working it into this colour that I'd made earlier. And what we're going to do with the smaller round brush, this is number 1, is just gently, don't want too much. Let's see. Just want it to come up so it's just looking like lots of little clouds as opposed to just one big one. There we go. I can build in some of these colours as well, make them blend in nicely. I do like skies. I really like working on skies, but you can overdo it. I've got to start working on the ground soon, but we're getting somewhere really nice with this. Now, I'll do something about here. This is a bit open there, so that's going to be the bottom of another cloud, large cloud. But you don't want it looking too... That's better. Oh, right. Now, where's my blending brush? There we are. Excuse me. Oh, that was a bad time. I need to sneeze. I do beg your pardon. Now, with the small flat brush that's still clean, I'm going to get a much brighter white and start highlighting some of these clouds. But I don't want a pure white, I still want it to have a slight amount of colour in. Because if you look at colours, you don't often see pure white or pure black. They are often mixtures of other colours. Excuse me. So I've mixed this in, and I'm still using a little bit of this rose madder colour here with the white just under there. I'm just trying to get that sort of fluffy feeling. Oh dear, if you can hear a strange sound, that is my studio manager. He's my cat, one of my cats, and his name's Arnie, and he wants attention right now. You'll have to wait. Yes, Arnie. I don't know if you can hear him or not, but he's right behind me and squeaking. There we go. I think that looks nice. That's quite a dramatic sky. Very tempted to leave it like that, but I think it still needs a little bit of work. Be very gentle. There's a small brush, and now I go on to the quite pure white paint and just do some little dobs of white. This is pure white because it's just to highlight. I don't use too much of it. You don't really need lots. And to be honest, I'm just letting myself go with the flow here. Just doing what looks good and what feels right. I'm rinsing off all these brushes, including the dry brush one, drying it out. Now they're not quite dry, but I think if I use this flat, that's fairly dry, I can use that to just gently move some of these in. There we go. I've got some really nice dramatic clouds going on there. Sort of an anvil shaped cloud there. It's quite different from the reference picture, but that's the whole point for me, is to make it, the reference picture is just simply as a springboard to do other things with my imagination. So, I just want to tidy up this bit of sky here because it's looking a touch harsh. So what I'll do is just soften that up. There is a dark area of sky there in the reference photo. Just want to not make it too hard. That's a bit better. I'm careful using the very dark blues. A little bit on there. Rinse this brush off. There we go. Let's bring it back into where you can see it in shot. Now bring that and just gently, very gently ease in to that. There we go. Much better. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave that at that. And now I'm going to start on the landscape below, which is simply fields. It's lovely fields and hedgerows and some long grasses. Excuse me. And there is a path. What I like is the fact that this path just sort of leads away and over the hills. So what we're going to try and do is just roughly put in what I want to go where. Get a good idea. Now you may think it's strange that I've got no green on this palette, but what I tend to do is to use yellow and blue to make green, because I can often make a nicer green for myself than by using one straight out of the tube. I do have greens and I do use them, but for this one I think it gets a much more natural colour if you use a mixture of yellow and blue. So I'm using the blues and the yellows that I've got on the palette, and I particularly want to keep some of the colours from the sky and carry those through the landscape below, so it looks more pleasing to the eye when you've got a balance. So we start off, I have one rough idea, so let's try some cobalt blue. I'll find a clean bit of palette, tease a bit of yellow out. You see you've got a really nice, very rich green there. It's an emerald green. In fact, that's almost too rich and clear because the colours in my reference picture are more earthy. So we nick a bit of this yellow ochre, and put that in. So what I'm doing here is doing that. And again, you're making a very strong colour. A little bit more of that. What I tend to do is use a tiny bit of white, not too much, to just subdue the colour. It makes it lighter, but it subdues it. This colour is going to be used to put in the rough guides of where everything is. So, let's see. There we go. Now, we've got a path here. Let's just get some excess paint off there. We've got a path here that leads away. We've got a bit of bank and hedgerow there. And then we've got fields here, so what I'm going to do the bank and hedgerow there. Let's just fill that in. Excuse the snuffles, I'm still feeling the nasal surgery effects. Oh dear me. So there you go. Right, what I'm actually going to do now is put in, see if I can clean that off. But I don't mind if there's a little bit of green still on there. It won't really contaminate it too much. And we've got, I'm going to use a touch of the yellow ochre, a bit of the green, and a tiny bit of this Van Dyke brown, this lovely dark Van Dyke brown, to get this. There's a beautiful field just here, which is very streaky in colour. That's lovely. Right. Okay. And we've got one here. Let's make some dark green. Now you can, if you mix up too many colours, you can muddy them quite badly with oils on the palette. But because I'm mixing here many colours, but I'm being very careful. We've got a slightly muddy colour here, but that is actually what we need to go up in the bank here. There we go. That's it. Just make some. Right, now I'm going to nip to another different. I'll get my other flat brush, my larger one. Now we want to brighter colours here because we've got some really lovely earthy colours tones going on there. So what I want to do is use yellow, but not too. Let's put some yellow ochre in there. A tiny touch of white. You shouldn't use white too much to lighten. You should really look at using lighter tones of the colours you've already got. But you can use it on a lot of things. But I do use it occasionally to calm colours down or to lighten them a little bit. Right, there we go. Got some lovely colours going on in this landscape. Yes, I'm just gonna, like I say, I'm just using the reference picture to give me a good idea. I'm not worried about making it look exactly like the photograph. There we go. I'll put that over there for now. Okay. Right, and now we've got some light greens in the background as well, in these gorgeous colours. So make a little bit more green up, so yellow, touch of blue. And the different yellows and blues you use will make different shades of green. I find that if I want a very vibrant green, cobalt blue and cadmium yellow opaque, not the cadmium yellow hue which is translucent, they make a wonderful bright green which looks fantastic. So here we go. That's a little lovely colours. Yeah, these are all patchwork fields around here. I'm just trying to get that patchwork feel of all these little fields going on. Right, what I'm going to do is make some lighter green now. Really light green. So I've got white, yellow, slightly earthy tones as well. So let's get some of that green up and put it up there. Right, let's see what we've got. Yeah, it's still a bit dark, so I don't normally advocate using white to lighten too much because you can get a very dull colour. But I'm struggling a bit here, so I'm going to take the shortcut and use a touch of white. A bit more yellow. That should do. It should be a nice pale green there. Yeah, that's what I was after. There we are. Right, that's got the main part of the background done. What I want to do is just make some more defined shapes in the fields. So I want to go back to my palette and see what colours I've got. Got some nice browns here. Oh, achoo! Achoo! Beg your pardon. Okay, so got some nice browns here. Keep going with those. There's quite some defined fields there. Okay, let's find another brush. That'll do. So use a bit of bright yellow just to get that feel there. And there's sun in the background. This is getting the sunlight on the fields breaking through some of these clouds. Okay, that's nice. I like that. But I think I'll make those fields at the front a touch brown and these ones here. Excuse me. Let's get that slightly dark. Mix that in. Linseed oil will do on this one. Smooth that out. Okay, we don't want it too dark. Okay, let's thin it with a bit of thinners. Let's loosen the paint up a little. Quite dark there, don't want too dark. So what we'll do then is I'll get another fresh brush and work into it a little bit. Don't be afraid to use your finger at times either. As long as you keep your hands clean and clean them well afterwards. Alright, so there we go. I think I'm going to use some more yellow ochre to make these feels a little more earthy. It's a bit yellow at the moment, a bit bright. Looking very yellow. There we go. And always I'm looking back at my reference picture, thinking, yeah, that looks right. You don't want to overwork things either. I think I'll leave those as they are. Just sort of soften that a little. We will be putting extra work on these because there are lots of trees on the landscape, so they'll be going in. Excuse the sniffles. Okay, so we're looking quite nice now. This is looking like a really nice little picture. So what I need to do is just do some more on this bit here, because we've got some grasses coming out of there. A whole line of really nice grasses that mark the boundary to this field. And so I'm just using this brush. It's the flat. I'm just using it to tease out with some of the paint here, the semi-dry paint, but I'm also using it to soften up edges. There we go. Don't want to take it too smooth. You want some of that rough, not quite blended paint. You want some areas of contrast. And what I'm going to do now, let's take one of my favourite brushes, and we're going to do some light brown. This grass is sort of light, almost white, but it is very pale brown colour. Beg pardon. I have to excuse the sniffles. And there we go. What I've done is I've taken some of this colour and some of the yellow ochre, some white, some basic cadmium yellow, and you've got this sort of, it's almost a salmon colour, but it is a sort of pale yellow, very beige, pale beige colour that you get in dried grasses. A bit more yellow, and I think a touch more white. There we go. A little bit of thinners. I'm trying to get the brush a little quite dry, so that you're getting a dry brushed effect. Now, it's too dry, so let's put some tiny bit of thinners on. Okay, here we go. Excuse me. Okay, just bringing it along. I'm not doing it solely from one side, I'm doing it from taking the brush from the centre out so that you're not getting too hard an edge on the start of the stroke, so that you don't get like almost like a full stop mark. Okay, so start from here, go in. There we go, just keep going. As I get smaller, I'll probably require a smaller brush. Now I can do strokes upwards. There's the occasional thick stroke. Let's put a thicker stroke here. Get some more. I want it to look like there's something in the foreground here. Just a bit more. Touch of oil. Alright. Just do some gentle strokes. This is my #1 brush, but I'll probably switch over now to a slightly smaller brush. Let's see what we've got here. Okay. I've got 10-0 brush here. This is a very fine liner one. So if I wet it, have a look. That's a lovely fine brush. And you can get really nice fine lines with it. Trying to just get the image of these dried grasses coming up from the lusher grass. Don't need to do too much detail on this. It's just a little landscape. Your eye fills in a lot of what you don't see anyway. So your eye will put in details that aren't necessarily there. It does a lot for you, your own vision. There we go. Some nice things. Now, don't worry if you can't get thin lines straight away. It does take a lot of practice, and I still don't get it right a lot of the time. There we go. Now you see that's a bit thick there, but what I can do there is take my hand and just finger and just do that very gently. Now it's looking a little too, excuse me, it's looking a little too even here, so I'm just going to extend some pieces. There we go. There we go. Now that looks like a little bit better. So they're coming, so they look like they're coming this way at you, coming out of the picture. Your eye's being led in to part of the picture. I took that off there because I thought that was too strong a line there. Let's put a thinner one in. There we go. It's grasses, you don't want it to look really thick and nasty. Just put a few in for detail. There we are. Now when I've finished with my brushes, I just run them in the thinners and gently roll them in a tissue so that they come out looking neat. Okay, that looks nice. What I'm going to do now is the background of the trees. I've got a different brush again. Can't remember what size this one is, but it's one of my old favourite brushes, and it's a really good brush for doing things. So I want a dark green. So we take some of our dark blue, which we had from the sky, some yellow. That gives you a really nice dark green. Just a little bit of Van Dyke brown, just to make sure it is nice and dark. Might need to make a bit more, so a bit more Prussian blue, a bit more yellow, and a touch of brown. Still a touch light. Let's see what it looks like on the canvas. You don't want it too strong. A little bit of linseed oil, just to loosen the paint up. So let's have a look. What does this look like? Actually, that's not bad. It's probably about as dark as I want to do some nail. There you go. I'm just teasing the brush along. I'm not loading the brush with too much paint. I'm just teasing it along. Just using the reference picture as a guide more than anything. So I want to make, now there was a line of trees right in the centre. Right now, don't worry about not going over your grasses there that you've done going up, because we can always go back over those another time. Let's loosen up the paint with a touch of thinners. And there are some more trees going up this side. It's the joy of painting trees in the distances. They don't have to look massively accurate. They just got to be an impressionistic idea of what trees would look like. Sometimes as you get in the country, you get the separate little bushes which are from old hedgerows that are pretty much not there anymore, and you've just got the odd bit of bush marking the boundary. So I think we'll leave that like that. Okay, I like that. I think I'll leave that as it is. Let's clean off the brush. Might do. Let's just soften this area here. This area here looks a little harsh. Let's just soften that. There we go. There. That's better. Now what we need to do then is rectify the grasses at the front so that they're still showing, because now they're behind the trees. Ideally you should do these last, but I like doing things in a strange order, so I think a bit more white into our grass colour, a slight touch of yellow, make it a much stronger colour, a bit more white as well. I want it to really zing out. Touch of linseed oil. Right, with my very fine brush, I'm going to go over some of these lines, but I'm not worrying about it too much. Just teasing the brush up. You can do a bent piece of grass if you like I did just there. You're just teasing the brush up, teasing the paint onto the canvas. You don't want to load too much paint onto the brush. There we go. You just want to... There we go. That looks a lot better. There we are. Some on this side to make them stand out more. There we are. Just trying to get the impression of the sun, a sunny day, walking down the country lane, seeing the really nice sky. Now what I sometimes do, if I want, excuse the sniffles, if I want a nice detail, is I'll sometimes put a little bit of, almost like a barleycorn detail, like the fluffy head of the grass where you get the seeds, but only on some of them. You don't want to overdo it. There we go. It just gives you a little something extra to look at. And I think I might put a little extra white in there, in that colour. Just highlight that a touch more on some of these. There we go. There we go. Some seed heads of the grass. Now the only thing left to do now is the path. Now the path on the picture was a gravel path, but I kind of like earthy paths. I want to keep this as a beaten track. Whoops, drop it in. So, another fresh brush. And I'm thinking the dark green, which we had earlier, this lovely dark green, mixed with a bit more brown. There we are. And some yellow. Because you want to keep the colours all working together. So that's a little dark, I think. But just doing the edges where it's meeting. Excuse me, where it's meeting the bank. Now we're going to do it a little bit lighter. So a bit of the yellow ochre, and just on the edge, just pull some of that colour in from the yellow ochre there. Little touch of white, but not much. A slightly greyish look to it. Bit more yellow. How do we pull it in? There we go. We're just taking them in from the sides, just to make it look like a natural path. Okay. Now what do we want? I think I can take some of this grey from the middle. I'll mix it with some of that. Let's have a look. Let's see what that looks like. So taking some of the sky colour into the landscape now. And that is a good thing to do usually because it works. It brings the whole thing together. Yeah, that's working nicely. Bit of white. Bit of yellow. Little bit. Oh, too much yellow there. Never mind. We can rectify that. Go up there and get some more of this. There we go. Don't want this to look like a river, so the danger is it could look wet. So let's take that. Let's take one of my other brushes that's now dry. And let's pull this in, these edges, so that it looks like a path. That's good. What I'm going to do is put a little bit of shadow along there. There we go. And just gently tease that in. There. Get another clean brush. Use my flat one. Let's just move the palette out of the way. There we go. Right. There we have it. Path leading into the painting. Need a bit more definition on the path, I think. Might do a bit more green on there. So we're almost done. So grab a scrape of green, lighter green, and just put it in there. Just want to define this path a bit more. That's it, that's done it. You just need a little something along the edge. And there we go. That is a little landscape painting of a path in the village I live in Tibshelf. I hope you've really enjoyed watching this, and thank you for putting up with my sniffles. I appreciate it. I hope you can get on and do some more paintings of your own. It would be great. No, it's just tidy up, and there we go.